Welcome to Make It Plain from Make Plain Jesus Ministries, featuring Pastor James Bryan, where we take biblical truths in everyday situations and break them down to be as plain as possible. So, stay tuned and enjoy the broadcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Make It Plain podcast. We're glad that you're able to join us today as we just explore another topic that will help you throughout everyday life. As you all know, we are in different times that have not really existed before and that are very different. And to some extent, people are looking at this as their new normal. So we want to figure out, well, how do we live and how do we just adjust to this new surroundings, the new changes that we are now faced with? And so during the next few minutes, as we spend some time together, we want to make sure that we're able to give you some news that you can use, some insights that will help you in your decision making, both at home and outside of the home. First of all, as we've been saying in all of our different channels, we want to make sure that even though things are different, they're not the same, and they may not be familiar for most, that their world from several months ago compared to now is so different. We want to make sure that you understand that still, don't walk around fully fearful. You may not have all the answers. In fact, I would tell you that most people do not have all the answers. But there is one that is there at all times, and his name is Jesus, and he will help you through every aspect of it. So let me tell you and help you right now on how to get through what we call leading when you have no plan. Leading when you have no plan. You see, right now we are living in a time where we are all of us, thrust into situations that we have not been in before, we're not familiar with. We're not sure if our next step is the right step or the wrong step. We're seeing situations where conglomerates and companies that we always thought were last forever all of a sudden are being shut down and having issues. We're seeing for the first time that all sports are really discontinued at all levels. We're seeing that all gatherings are not happening anymore. We're seeing that weddings are now disrupted, and I've read many articles of folks getting married, just the two of them and who's ever conducting the ceremony, but it's all through video for everyone else that would normally have attended to watch. We're seeing that big celebrations of birthdays and things like that are having to be rethought. We're seeing that even churches are now finding that they cannot come together in the buildings together, so now they have to find creative ways to continue to spread the gospel. We're finding that families are now beginning to have to spend more time together, meaning that before they may have been fine, but now all of a sudden they're in the house together all the time, and they're finding things about each other, good and sometimes not as good, that now they have to deal with. And they realize that families now have to talk to one another. It's such a new normal. And so all of these things are occurring, but now we find many of us in our positions that are leading others that before maybe we weren't. We are pushed into positions of authority or influence that before we didn't have those. And maybe we didn't even plan to be in those positions, but because of circumstances and because of changes that have occurred, we're now finding ourselves in a position of authority or influence or leadership. So what do you do when you're put in those positions, but you didn't plan thoroughly for it? Or even if you thought that at some time you aspired to be in one of those positions, but your understanding and your aspiration was very different from the reality in which you live in right now. For some folks, they may have just envisioned being in a corner office in a corporation. But now there isn't a corner office. There's your home and your computer, something called teleworking or remote working. In some cases, there's no work. What do you do if all of a sudden you're home as a parent, but you cannot now move your kids to your daycare provider or to your school or to your sports team, but now you have to lead them on the day-to-day basis? What do you do if you are a pastor or a minister or some other church leader and you have to really watch over the flock or help folks along, but you can't physically see them on a regular basis, meaning in the same physical location? So what do? You're pushed in the spotlight. You're pushed in a position of authority. You're pushed there and in an environment that you did not construct yourself, nor do you have total control over. Are you fully equipped? And in most cases, I would say a lot of you may be seeing yourself in these positions saying, I don't know what I should do. I can't tell you what tomorrow's going to bring. I can't tell the next person how they should stretch their career because we're not sure what the career means now. We're not sure what the industries mean. We can't tell our children about what events or things they'll be doing next because we don't know what's open. We don't know how things will be going. So you don't have a plan. So now you're living in a situation where your planning is more short-term than long-term, theoretically. So what do? I look at things a bit differently than some, is that my process is I'm looking at a situation and say, well, have I experienced this in the past? If I did, what worked and what didn't work? And if there are lessons learned or understandings from those past experiences, then I take the things that are good and work and I try to apply it to the current. So I learn from my past experiences. But I would tell you that that works to a degree in where we are right now. But there are things that are going on and changes that are occurring that are not yet known to any expert, let alone a lay person. And so you have to come up with a different strategy. A strategy that will help you still get through and be successful and be able to lead your family, your community, your neighbors, your co-workers if you have them, and in a way that really will get you to an expected end, a successful end. And so that is relying on the Lord himself. And for some that are extremely logical, they can't fathom that. They can't understand that would be an answer. But I tell you, it really is true. I look back in time and I look at two guys that I've seen in history, if you will. These two guys that were faced with situations that they really didn't know what to do with. And in their cases, they had to come up with a situation where they needed to know how to go forward. And they knew they didn't have all the goods, if you will, or the past experience to help them know exactly what to do next. So they just said, Lord, help me. One is Solomon, King Solomon. You can read about him in the Old Testament. And you can read about what he had to do. And if those that want to really research it, look at 1 Kings, and especially around chapter 3 or so. And he came to the situation that his famous, well-known, successful father, King David, had died. And now Solomon was in charge. And David had left instructions for him about what to do. And he did those things in the initial part. But then after that, he realized that there was more that he just wasn't prepared for. There were life situations and things that were changing quickly, but he felt ill-prepared. And so he didn't know how to address things. And so he just asked the Lord when he and the Lord had a conversation, when God appeared to him, he was like, look, this is what I'm asking for. I'm asking for understanding. I'm asking for discernment. If we sum all that up in today's vernacular, we're saying he's asking for wisdom. Wisdom on how to deal with people. Because he had an innumerable number of people that he was now in charge of. And this large number, uncountable number of people were looking to him to figure out how to lead everyone. And so he wanted wisdom on how to deal with people. You know, many of us have to deal with people with different emotional backgrounds and personalities and motivations and things over time. And everybody has a different slant to how they approach things. But you need wisdom to understand what's the right way with all these different variables. Solomon had enough understanding to realize that of his own self, he didn't have the goods. He didn't have the background. He didn't have the depth. He was trained by those that were around the king's palace and all. But it's something about learning something knowledge-wise, but applying it in real life and being thrust in that situation. This is the problem that King Solomon faced. He's like, I'm just a child. I'm not skilled enough for this. So Lord, I'm asking you for some wisdom. I'm asking you for discernment. I'm asking you to just fill me with what I need to be a just king, a right king. And so the Lord saw that, and the Lord really blessed him so that he was the wisest man that ever lived, outside of Jesus, right? The wisest man that ever lived. And he asked because he needed to understand how to go about life on a day-to-day basis using the right wisdom that's needed. You see, oftentimes, folks that are in church all their life, they sometimes forget something. We have to be spiritually strong. We do, and we have to be connected. But we have to apply that to the practical strategies that need to occur in everyday life. And those strategies need to come from the one who understands all strategies, the Lord himself. That you pray to God and just say, Lord, show me the next step. Show me what to do. Give me wisdom in discerning what is right and what is wrong. What is successful? What is the path that I should take? And so Solomon asked that, and because of that, his exploits and the things that happened under his watch as king were marvelous and extraordinary, that even folks that were not of the children of Israel, that were not Jewish, that were not later Christians or any of that, were marveling at all that occurred under his reign as king. You see, it's that wisdom that he asked God for. Another person that is of interest in history is a person named Gideon. That God appeared to him and called him and sent an angel that called him a mighty man of valor and called him something that Gideon never saw himself as. In fact, Gideon said that, you know what? I come from the least of all tribes and people. And basically, Gideon was afraid of everything. Scaredy cat. But what ends up happening, God worked with him. And he began to realize that through God, he could do all kinds of things. It took a while for him to learn. But then he listened to the strategies that God gave him, and he was victorious. Strategies that made no logical sense, but were the right strategies for a given moment, a given situation, and for a given people. You see, Gideon, who is amongst the least of folks, was now pushed to be a judge or someone that everyone in the nation was looking toward for judgment and for direction. God took somebody who didn't have any of the skill sets in a situation that he didn't know what to do with, and God gave him the wisdom, and he executed the strategies that God gave him, and it worked. You see, right now, all of this is true for us in this time. It isn't about the smartest person, because there are things that are going on that even your best logic will not be able to answer. There are things that are going on in people's lives right now that are impacting them so much that no matter what they do, it's not working out the way that it used to work out. And so in those times when you are in unfamiliar territory and you look back in history and time and you don't find enough information that can really apply to where we are right now and where we're going in this new normal, you got to find a strategy, a plan, when you don't have one. And so now that you don't have one, you have to look to the one who is able to provide it. And that is seeking God and say, Lord, what do I do in this case? I always remember there's a part of Scripture, and I'm going to paraphrase it, and this isn't a preaching thing. It's more of just giving you some hope, some understanding, and some revelation here. And this is part of the Bible where it says, the foolishness of God is higher than the wisdom of men. The foolishness of God is higher than the wisdom of men. So when I look at that, regardless of how I rate myself as wisdom or wise, or how confident I am in myself, or any of those things, I'm going to go ahead and look to the one who has more knowledge and understanding than I do. And by doing so, then I can be successful. Because even though I may think I know the situation, I don't know all the variables that are around it. I don't understand the full impact of the virus right now. I don't understand the full impact that it has on people's psyche. I don't understand the full impact that it has on all of the areas of business and the industries. I don't understand the full impact that it has on how people view their faith and their church and everything else. I don't understand the full impact of what it's doing with families and all. I don't understand the full impact of what it's doing to consumer goods and getting groceries and all. You understand? I understand partially, but I don't really understand fully. So by asking the Lord what to do, then I know when to buy things or not buy things, when to store up things, when not to store up things, when to make connections business-wise, when not to make connections business-wise. So when you don't have a plan, but now you're put into leadership, it would be foolish to just go along and think you can figure it out as you go, because that may have worked in some cases, but in this environment where things are very different, that's not the wisest move. The wisest move is to do everything that you know to do and stand, and then really trust in God and seek God for direction. Speak to Him and get direction on your particular situation. Who do I ask for help? When do I ask for help? When do I not ask for help and use some of my resources that I may have? When do I really store up? All of these things are important. What things should I study and prepare for from a career or wage earning perspective? What is the next step? All these things are important to know and important to learn. So all I wanted to share with you is just to think about it for a minute. Take some time. Think about where you are. Do you really have a plan? And even if you say you have a plan, are you sure that it will work fully in these cases no matter what comes? There are many billionaires that are now looking at their portfolios and are trying to figure out what to do. There are many millionaires who are very comfortable but realize now that things are different, and being comfortable may not be the right answer because things are changing so quickly. And so this is the time to seek the one who has the wisdom, whose foolishness is above any wisdom of anyone that you know. You've got time now to set aside. You can clear your schedule and begin to seek and to ask questions and find out what the Lord will want you to do. This is a time of seeking. This is a time of reviving and revival. This is a time of being purpose-driven. This is a time of being just heartfelt focused and getting the answers that you need. I believe the Lord will meet you where you are. And I believe that you can get these practical answers to practical questions from a spiritual source that is God Himself, that He will provide for you, because Jesus has already paid the price and given us a way to get back to Him. So make it plain in this sense. Know that God has the answers. So now's the time to ask and say, I have a question. You said I could come to you, so here I am. And utilize that ability. And guess what? You'll then find out the path that you need to take so that you can be successful from this day forward. Have a good day.